Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Friday. It's Alyssa Corman and Ed Carson here with a look at the stock market today. And since it is Friday, we're going to go a little bit into detail on the technical action for the market this week and see what clues it might provide for the week ahead. And Ed, you've got 3 stocks that we're going to take a look at as well. What are those stocks?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at Nvidia, which had a really strong week. We talked about it earlier this week on IBD Live. Tilray, which had a wild week, up and down. We definitely focused on that during the week. And we're also, taking a look at Peloton, which made nice action today.
Yeah, pedaling higher for sure. So let's kick things off with a look at the NASDAQ daily chart on Think or Swim from TD Ameritrade here. You know, the NASDAQ had a bit of burst of buying into the close, Ed, gaining about 0.5% on Friday to close out the week. The S&P 500 up 0.5% as well. The Dow up about 0.1%. And if we take a look at the Russell 2000, that ended up down fractionally, about 0.1%. But all in all, Ed, this week compared to the prior 2 seem to have settled down a little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, there was a little bit quieter. We had a nice gain on Monday, as we can see here, sort of little separation, and then we sort of grinded higher after that. We had a nice close today, but sort of moved slowly sideways, sort of moving along with this half deviation from the regression line. And in a similar fashion, we didn't get more extended from the 50-day line. I think we'd still, by a lot of measures, be extended, but we didn't become more so while the market continued to move higher. It was really nice action. There was some nice action on leading stocks. So it was a positive week once again.
Yeah. But a lot of extended stocks as well, and we will get to that here soon. But let's also take a look at the NASDAQ from a weekly perspective to see what that tells us. I mean, again, rewinding back the past 2 weeks, we had a big red bar followed by a big blue bar. We have another blue bar this week, of course, as like you said, we grinded higher. Where does this leave us in the market uptrend, do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously the market uptrend is doing very well. We're, ever since the election, the market has been in a new rally, been doing really well. Hasn't even this week down here wasn't that bad. It was just starting to become a concern. We became under pressure for a little bit, but went right back. I think we just have to, looking at this, you'd expect the market to go higher. The question is, we've had, being extended somewhat. When we get up to this level, that's been an area where the market has tended to run in a little bit of trouble, or that versus the 50-day line hasn't happened yet. And the pullbacks recently have been light. So there is a bit of the boy who cries wolf, or the boy who cries bear, as you might say. And if we keep on saying, well, it's extended, you should watch out. Well, you got to be careful because you just don't know when that might happen. Mm-hmm. It's okay if nothing happens this time or this time, but if something bad does happen, you want to be ready for it.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting what you said on IBD Live. You're bullish right now, but we'll have to wait for your evening column or, over the weekend column for a little bit more detail on that. But I think another point to make here is if you bought a lot of stocks right earlier in this uptrend, taking profits when the market is getting a little overheated doesn't mean that you're getting fully out of the market. You're still enjoying some of those gains, adding at proper areas, maybe looking for new buys when appropriate, but not right before earnings. And yeah, maybe today with us remaining at these extended levels, we're just not being aggressive right here, right now. But we're going to be flexible either way.
That's right.
Okay, and let's just give a quick flip on over to the S&P 500 on MarketSmith here. Similar action, just tight closes for the week, but finished on a high note.
Finished on a high note, and you can say, and this is the same with NASDAQ, this was the big wobbly day, and really wasn't that much of anything. Just sort of wobbled back and forth. It sort of resembled action we'd had back here, but not as much. I mean, ultimately, it was very small, and it was the market was sort of contained in this fairly tight area all week long.
All right. Well, we're going to look at a couple of stocks now, and then at the end, we'll kind of circle back, give you a little bit more of our thoughts on the current state of affairs with the market. But Ed, let's take a look at Peloton, which pedaled higher today. As you mentioned, this was one that we were taking a look at on IBD Live before it really started moving higher. It was still below that 10-day and 21-day, those 21-day lines. And we said we really wanted to see it get above that 150 level. And it looks like it was able to do that. But you also have a downward trend line there.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I track
tell us
it.
more.
It's partly just so I notice it, but it's also it's a trend line. I mean, there's a lot of stocks like this. I mean, I like to look at patterns. I mean, when stocks find support at the 50-day line, rebound, and then we get above other moving averages like the 21-day line, which is the green line. It's also the 10-day line. It's pretty much the same thing. So that's nice. And then just sort of breaking above, sort of like clearing resistance. It's not quite the same as when you go flat, horizontal and you power through it, but it still means something. So the 50-day rebound, the 21-day line, and the trend line just peaking above, those are all reasons to be interested in buying it. This was added to Swing Trader today. Nice action. And, one more thing is not in addition to the 50-day line, it found support at this old buy area. So there was a lot of support where you'd expect to find it. It's flashing a lot of buy signals in a tight little area. So it's definitely a place you could start a position in.
Yeah, and before we move on to the next one, if you could just scroll down on the bottom so we could see the price, or I mean, yeah, scroll that way. There we go. No, we're close. We can't quite see the price bars, but we can see all the price action, which is the most important thing. And next on our list is Nvidia, one that we've also been all over this week as it went into new high ground, finished the week just below that 600 level, Ed, cleared an early entry at 560.07 that you are drawing so expertly there. So that was the day that we considered this to be actionable, and it has extended its gains this week. So really nice to see Nvidia, which we know has that leadership power that we've seen in the past, has been known to make really big moves, has incredibly strong fundamentals. Great to see it perking back up.
That's right. And it really was. And it's like, it had been hitting 560 a few times, like 3 times, 1, 2, 3 times, right around that area, and sort of break through there. It wasn't enough to get above the 50-day line. You really wanted to see it clear that it did that. We talked about it early in IBD Live, and it was actionable for quite a while. You could also buy here or add here, though, as you're saying, this was definitely, it seemed to be the most actionable area. Nice blue bars and high volume. The other days are less. Today, there was a bit of negative news, not a real shocker. Microsoft, Apple, and Google reportedly have objections or maybe even want to block NVIDIA's planned buy of ARM Holdings, which makes chips for a lot of these companies. So it's not surprised that there might be, those kind of antitrust concerns, but this has been acting really well, and just a lot of nice things about it.
Yeah, well, it seems like NVIDIA held up relatively well today in the face of that news, but it's one to keep tabs on, especially because it has earnings in 12 days time. So for those who initiated positions this week, or maybe you're a longer term shareholder, you have that cushion. So hopefully it can keep that up ahead of the earnings report.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll revisit it before then. And last but not least on our list, we do want to take a look at Tilray. This is exemplifying some of that climactic action that we've seen in a number of stocks. And it looks like the Wall Street Bets crowd went from GameStop to cannabis and crypto. We've also talked about that as well. But this shows why it's a really good idea that when you own a stock that is starting to go vertical like this and showing that climactic action, why it's a really great idea to lock in profits.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you don't have to go whole hog. You can take partial profits at first, but this stock was really crazy. Even here before the peak, when it was 70% above its 10-day line. And when we get, even in this market, which has been fairly frothy, 30, 40, 50% has usually been an area where things peak out. However, it kept going. So if you had taken partial profits, you would have missed out on some of this. But the next day it came tumbling down 50%. And like this day, it was 117% above its 10-day line, which is just Just amazing. It fell almost 50% and still didn't touch its 10-day line. Today it did. And now
Mhm.
it's below this area. So if you took partial profits here, even if you didn't get, it's hard to top tick, you
Yeah,
know, a climax type run or some very, extended stock. But, you wouldn't want to have given up all these gains, like 60% or
exactly.
65%.
And this also assumes that you bought it right. Another thing that we've talked about, how beginner investors may get caught up in that FOMO, that fear of missing out and seeing these stocks going on incredible moves, and maybe are top ticking it with a buy, which is definitely something that we don't want to see happening. We want to be buying stocks that are coming out of consolidations or closer to those moving averages, not way far extended from those short-term moving averages, especially.
I think that's a great point, because sometimes people talk about what we do in IBD, CanSlim investing, is momentum investing. And we want to be with the momentum, but the thing is, you want to get it when that ball is rolling, before they started like buying at these correct points. You want other people to be momentum investors and drive that stock up or short cover or whatever, but you want to buy it at a good place, because that's the chances are it'll go up. And if it doesn't, or the odds are highest that it'll go up in those situations if you
Mhm.
bought it here or even somewhere in here if you're a little bit more aggressive. Buying it anywhere in here, there's no real rhyme or reason why you should buy in those particular areas, and you can really get caught out.
Exactly. We always want to be increasing our odds with success. And, maybe a little bit of a safer way to play this might be, I mean, we'd have to check the charts. Maybe we could do this next week, but with an ETF, because this area is getting a lot of play with the new administration. But again, buying it right would have been rewinding the clock a couple of months after the election, beginning of the year, even, as you're pointing out, that other entry when it's popping above that 20 level. This is MJ, one of the big marijuana ETFs. So it's another way that you can play a group with single stock risk, but we still like proper entries with these ETFs as well. But
That's right.
Ed, as we wrap up here, give us a little bit more of your thoughts in terms of how investors should be positioning themselves heading into early next week.
I think one is that you don't want to be just super aggressive. I mean, you want to be trying to be thinking, you probably want to still be part of this market. The market's still going up. You don't want to be just sitting on the sidelines, but you don't have to be fully invested or way on margin to be taking advantage of it. Uh, and probably even more important, what is your exit strategy for stocks? How do you want to scale out? Like if the market comes down, obviously not, hopefully, not stocks like Tilray, but when the market comes down, growth stocks, which tend to outperform on the upside, well, they outperform on the downside too. So if the market does come down 4, 6, 8, 10%, or a lot more, those growth stocks are going to come down. They're going to come down. And so you need to have a strategy where do I take profits? Do I do it here? Do I here, take some things here? And so you can hold on to the bulk of your gains, because hopefully you've had a really great 2020, a great start to 2021. Don't want to, try to fight the trend when starts going against you.
Yeah, and one more thing about the market being extended, because as we mentioned earlier, the last time before this just very most recent pullback, when the NASDAQ was a little bit over 8% extended above the 50-day line, we're getting awfully close to that level now. So I guess the question would be, what makes this scenario this week different from where we were, you rewind just a couple of weeks ago? Do we seem as primed for that pullback, or does it seem like this is a very resilient market? Yes, there's a lot of froth and euphoria out there. We could get more extended.
Well, we could get more extended, and I'm going to actually just call back the screen actually for a moment, because we're not quite as extended on the NASDAQ, but we actually got
Not
pretty
quite.
high up today with today's rally. We got a little higher than that. So let's say we're about 7.8%
Yeah.
above the 10-week line, the 50-day line.
Yep.
Back here, we got, 8.2%.
Mhm.
On Monday, actually, we were at 8.1. So we've been slightly higher. We could go even higher, but you can see when we got way up here and kept on going, it can go away so fast. It can go away so fast. I think I just said we shouldn't do the boy who cries wolf. I'll be honest, I'm I'm listening to myself and going, yeah, 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 Ed, why do you keep on yapping about pullbacks and stuff? Because, the market has done pretty well. So, but the fact is that it could come in. I don't know what it'd be to the catalyst, but the
Mhm.
market could suddenly just start coming down hard. Doesn't have to happen now. It
Mhm.
could keep going, it's extended, but you just want to be ready for it. What is your plan? If you have that plan and then, plan your trades and then trade your plan, you should
Yep.
be okay. And that's really the key.
Exactly. I think it's great to have that mindset because you're not closing yourself off to the variety of possibilities that could happen. If you make a plan for those various scenarios, that's what we're all about. Our founder, William J. O'Neill, would say, bend like a tree in the wind. So that's whether up or down. So I guess that's why we remain on the edge of our seats, because we want to be prepared for anything. We don't want to just say, yes, this market's been resilient. It's going to continue to be resilient for the remainder of the year with, the stimulus checks and low interest rates and Wall Street bets pumping stuff up. But we also don't want to say that the sky is falling every day. We're going to be flexible.
You got to be flexible because this is not, but you do have to be very alert and on the edge. You should always be very engaged because, this is a lot. This is maybe the money that you've got for retirement or what you hope will be your retirement funds. I mean, this is not a video game where you're like, I'm playing around, but I'm sort of looking around, talking to folks. No, you got to be staying engaged. If you're going to be actively managing your investments, you need to be actively managing your investments, and you have to be flexible on that. But, definitely stay engaged in good markets or bad. Be ready for anything. Don't try to predict it, but just be prepared.
Well said, Ed. We'll leave it on that note. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to tune in on Tuesday for another episode of IBD Live, because the market is closed for the President's Day holiday on Monday. So we'll see you back on IBD Live Tuesday, investors.com/IBD Live. Have a great weekend.